Hey everybody, Damon over here at REI Blackbook, and I'm coming to you live in the Facebook group. I just had a question, and this question actually comes up all of the time. And so I wanted to it's difficult to kind of type this out and kind of put my thoughts out there. But this ultimately is, everybody wants to know, hey, where do I go push the button to build the process out inside of REI Blackbook, okay? So there are, there's pros and cons to automation. I think the pros far outweigh the cons. But the one thing about building your business is that I cannot, REI Blackbook can't just push a button and build out the process that's going to match your business. Okay. So here's what I want you to understand, what I want to be very clear on. The way Drew and Risha do things may be different than how you do things, which may be different than the way, Tim does things. Okay. You need to understand your business processes, okay? That's probably the most important thing that you can do. And if you don't have a process, then you need to sit down and think through it and then document the process and then look and see, okay, where can I apply automation? And so here's how I would do that, okay? So let me give you some pointers on how to do this, all right? So for instance, the question I had come up today is like, okay, well, how do I build a process for follow-up for outbound leads? So I'm gonna cold call, right? So I'm gonna cold call a list. I'm gonna talk to people. And then where do I go and build where do I go and watch the video to tell me how to build the follow-up process, okay? So there's two parts to that question. There's the technical component of actually how to build out the automation, but more importantly, what you need to do is you need to define your process first, okay? So here's how you do that, all right? Like whenever you actually sit there and think about it, I literally kind of walk through the process emotionally, mentally, as much as I possibly can. And I ask myself questions at key points. So the first thing is okay, I think about it. I'm going to call the prospect and I get them on the phone. I'm cold calling them and I'm asking them, hey, do you want to sell your house? There's only a handful of answers that I'm going to get, right? Go jump in a lake, all right? Or, maybe, but I'm not really sure yet, okay? Or, yeah, you know what? I would actually consider selling my property, right? And there's some variations of those, but at the end of the day, it's going to be no, it's going to be maybe, or yes. That's really kind of what we're talking about, okay? So if you think about that in writing out your process, what you need to then do is like, okay, I've got a decision box here. It could be no, it could be maybe, or it could be yes. What do you want to do when they say no, right? What's the next step that you want to do? Okay, for most of us, we're going to be courteous and we're going to go ahead and remove them from the call list, which means we probably want to opt them out or apply some sort of tag. And that really is it, okay? Pretty much that's simple, not that difficult really for that piece. The next one is the maybe. Maybe they're interested, okay? So if it's a maybe, what do you want to do? For me, I'm going to want to follow up with them, right? So I might, then the question is, how do I want to follow up with them? Do I want to send them a text message? Do I want to send them an email? Do I want to send them ringless voicemails? I'm going to tell you, for me personally, I'm going to try to do all of that. I'm going to design a follow-up sequence that is designed, and each one of those touch points is going to have a call to action for them to call me back or text me back. They're going to have to raise their hand again and say, you know what, I'm now interested. But you want the system to do all of that follow-up for you. Now, I understand and I get it, guys. What you want is me to create all of that for you so you can just go push the button and say, here's the follow-up button. Now, what I'm going to tell you is we've created a lot of it, but really what you need to do is you need to write it out on paper first and say, this is what I want to do. And then go build the automation inside of the software. Don't let the tail wag the dog. And the tail is REI Blackbook. You don't want to let the software dictate how you run your business, okay? If you want to be a real business owner, you're going to have to step up and you have to design and create business processes, okay? If not, you're going to have a hobby and that's no big deal. You can probably make a lot of money in a hobby. It's not, but what we're talking about every day here at REI Blackbook and those in the REI Blackbook Connect community is how do you build the business, okay? Now, I've got a lot of you on the line that have joined here. So sincerely, if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask, but I want to be clear on this, okay? Now, here's what I mean. We built some of this stuff out for you. So if you say maybe, if the prospect, you call them up and they say maybe, then you know what? I've got an email sequence. I've written about 6 follow-up emails for you, and those are in a follow-up workflow. So you can actually take that workflow and then use that kind of as your base to really make it your own, okay? I'm going to encourage you to interject some text messages, to interject some ringless voicemails and things like that. That's what I'm going to encourage you to do. If they say yes, Then what do? Well, you're probably going to change. You probably want to apply some tags to the contact, know that it's actually, a yes lead, start scheduling appointments, triggering reminders for the appointments for you, for the prospect, but again, that's what I would do. What would you do? And I get that some of you guys are brand new and you're overwhelmed and you're like, hey, can't you just tell me exactly what to do? This is one of those instances where I can't give you the answers because the answers are different for everybody. They really are, okay? And I'm telling you, it's going to be probably one of the most valuable things that you do in your business whenever you stop and you actually think about the process, right? And it becomes your own, all right? Now, I know there are other people out there. There are other folks that's going to give you the quote-unquote blueprint, right? And they're going to tell you, this is exactly what you do, all right? I really believe in teaching a man to fish instead of giving him the fish, all right? Like that's really what the difference here. It's, do you want to learn how to fish for yourself? Do you want to how to be able to do this process and create it? That's what it's going to take, okay? If you want fish, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of people that will give you the fish, okay? So that's really what I'm talking about. And Bria, hopefully this explains it a little bit better. It's kind of hard to type out whenever I talk about this, okay? So again, you design the process. I know it's really not as difficult as what you think. And there is no right or wrong answers on this stuff either, all right? People are like, well, did I think wrong? No, if that's what works for your business, then that's what you need to implement, okay? So again, it's just stop and think about it and say, okay, at this joint, at this point, they do this. What are all of my options? Write out the options, okay? They could say yes, they could say no, they could say maybe. And then that becomes a branch in your process, okay? They said maybe. All right, what happens when they say maybe? Right, you're going to get to those. Eventually, you want to drive them to either say no or yes, and then those processes are going to take over from that point. Okay, that's really what you're trying to do. So Bria actually, she was the one that asked the cold calling question, so she's on here. So there's got to be a way I can bring you guys online. I don't know how to do that, but all right. So hey, I just added this to our exchange. When I cold called, you suggest I manually fed a landing page with the question I asked the seller instead of filling out a lead sheet in the property analyzer. I'm assuming the property analyzer doesn't trigger a flow. Yeah, so what I would encourage you to do, again, what I want you to do first and foremost, Bria, is I want you to think about what you want to do, okay? So yes, typically what I would encourage you to do is build a landing page. If you're going to make those outbound calls, and now you've got a landing page that has all of the questions for that particular seller that you're going to ask, and if you get their name and email address and everything else, then you can actually trigger the appropriate workflow, right? So at the very bottom, it could say, yes, maybe, or no. And that question inside of the REI Blackbook platform can literally trigger the appropriate workflow. So that's exactly what you would do, even on an outbound call, okay? It's no different even on an inbound call. If they called you or you called, it doesn't matter. How do you want to disposition that lead? I would personally start with a lead sheet because the lead sheet can create a property. It can actually fill out all of the information from the lead sheet inside the property analyzer. It can do all of that. And then but the beauty of a landing page, or what we call an internal landing page, that can also create all the contact fields and trigger all of that workflow, appropriate workflow as well. Okay, so that's what I would do, Bria. Hope that makes sense. But most importantly, what I want you to do is I want you to think about the process. Okay, what happens when they say no? And then all that is, guys, then now you're going to go build the no workflow. Like literally, that's the no workflow. Now, I will tell you that by default, a lot of us just simply say, oh, they said no, well, then that means it's a dead lead or whatever. Now, if they're adamant to remove me from the list and they're like, hey, go jump in a lake, then okay, I get it. But I will tell you, my buddy, good buddy, Darren Butcherum, we did an interview with him, case study, I think it was 2 boot camps, maybe 3 boot camps ago. And he got 37 deals extra after being told no. And there was 2 points of being told no. The first was no, he didn't get the appointment. So no, because his whole deal was like, he's going to go out on property, inspect the property, and give you an offer on the spot. Okay, that was kind of his process. But so he did a lot of things to obviously get to that appointment. And so there were really 2 places that he got told no, that he triggered additional follow-up that got him 37 additional deals. Okay, the first place he was told no, whenever he looked at his process and he said, okay, the first place I'm being told no is I'm not getting the appointment, right? So I'm trying to schedule an appointment to come look at the property and they're saying no. So then he triggered this particular workflow, said, hey, no, right? That triggered a follow-up sequence. It actually was an email follow-up sequence to the seller. Now, he designed it so that he was adding some additional value and, trying to build rapport and relationship and really soften that seller up for an opportunity. Now, in every one of those emails, he had a call to action. And the call to action was like, hey, look, you can click right here and click no, that you absolutely do not want to sell your property, and you'll be removed, and I won't follow up. Or if they didn't do anything, the emails kept coming. Or they could say, you know what, hey, I've really thought about it, and yes, I would like to schedule an appointment, and they could click yes in the email, okay? So that was the first point of him being told no, okay? The second point being told no that he continued following up was he went on the appointment and he made the offer and they did not accept his offer. So that was the second no. Again, he didn't just say, okay, that's it, they didn't accept my offer. He went back and said, okay, well, let's trigger this follow-up sequence, okay? And that follow-up sequence was, hey, look, it actually sent them out the offer again, right? And so they had the offer in their email. It would send them a text. It would send them some emails. He did about a 90-day follow-up process. And again, the same kind of things. If they said, absolutely no, I don't want to deal with you, leave me alone, they could actually opt out. Or if they didn't do anything, the emails and the follow-up plan kept going. Or they could say, you know what, I've reconsidered. I would really like to accept your offer, kind of thing, right? So from those two things, again, 37 extra deals, and I believe that was somewhere between 2017, 18, somewhere in that time frame of whenever he got those 37 deals. But it was like a 12-month period, and we looked at it, calculated it up, it was like, damn, you got 37 more deals after being told no. And that was all because he did two things. First and foremost, he stepped back and he looked at his own business, and he started asking, looking at every decision point, right? And there's a decision point, and the decision point was they're going to say yes or no to the appointment. What am I going to do when they say yes? What am I going to do when they say no, right? And so most of us, obviously, it's pretty easy to say yes. Oh, well, then we're going to schedule the appointment. We're going to go out on the appointment, and we're going to, follow up that way, right? But the no, most of the time, we're like, okay, we didn't get the appointment. We toss it to the side. That's where we said, you know what? I think there's some more stuff that I can do. And I can't stress enough that that's the part. If you guys go through that process and you think about your business and you think about those decision points, that's where you step back and you're going to look and say, okay, let's automate that piece. That's just, even if it's just a small chunk and we just automate that follow-up sequence, what could it be done? And I'm telling you, even if it gets you one more deal a year, even if you're on the highest level of REI Blackbook paying $200 a month, that's $2,400 for the year, and you go net, one additional wholesale deal, average wholesale fees right now are about 10 grand. I'm telling you guys, it's insane to me whenever we don't step back and say, okay, how do we look at our business in a process map? Okay. Now the answer is, I'm a business owner. I get it. What happens is we get caught working in the business, not on the business. Okay. And that's a dangerous place to be. Don't get me wrong. We all operate there, and sometimes we get drugged down in, and we got to, right? Sometimes we have to. I get it. But I can't stress enough that you got to find time to step out and work on your business. And it's hard to work on your business because when you're sitting there thinking about those process maps, nobody's paying you to get that done. It's not helping you generate any more deals. So it's not immediate revenue. It doesn't look like it's actually you're getting paid for that time. But really what you're doing is you're investing in your business for the long haul. And if you do that, the dividends will, the return on that are ridiculous. If, think about from Darren's perspective, it probably took him, a month or 2 months probably to design and kind of think through and test and tweak and change things and in his follow-up campaign after being told no. I bet it took him a month or two, right? But how many of you guys would spend an extra month or two building the machine that can help you generate and close 37 more deals? And actually, let me take that back, not generate, just close 37 more deals from his existing pipeline. Okay, now Darren, he does a ton of deals, okay? So I'm not gonna sit there and sugarcoat that, but he does it with very little help, okay? Very little help, okay? So anyways, that's kind of really the point. I want you guys to think about that. It's the whole concept of being able to think about your process. And what I like to do is I like to literally kind of think about, being the seller, whether I get a postcard and then I call you, right? I'm thinking through that, and I'm thinking through my options as a seller. So I try to put myself in the seller's shoes or the prospect's shoes, okay, depending upon what business you're targeting. And I want to think about their journey, and I just write it out. And look, guys, there's no right or wrong answer on this stuff. That's the stuff, by the way, if you guys start sharing that stuff in the group, that becomes really powerful. Because now we can all engage in those types of conversations, and you'll pick up some nuggets. And I'm not going to kid you. Yeah, you could look at somebody else's and say, okay, yeah, I would like to copy that. but I'm telling you, it'll be much more valuable if you learn how to fish. Okay, learn how to fish. Don't just go to the market and start buying fish. Okay, I think that's dangerous. So hopefully this was helpful. If so, if you got additional questions, always ask below, and I'll be happy to chat. All right, thanks so much, guys.